So we're going to read through a couple of these articles and then kind of talk about what we get from it. And then we wanted to talk about a couple dogs in regards to creating plans to move forward. So that's essentially the rundown of what we're going to talk about. Okay. I will read out loud and then I will ask for volunteers to read next. So I don't have to read everything.
Could you tell us who's all there, please?
Can I go grab a pen?
Who's on what?
Who's all there?
Who's all there at the meeting?
Oh, good.
I'll get it for you.
Thank you.
We have Stephanie Hayes. We have Jen. We have Lynette. We have Amelia. We have Stephanie DeGeorge.
Tina
Brooke. And then we have
the new name.
We have Brooke as well.
Who's joining us online?
And then we have online, we have Doris, Nigel, and Todd, and Monica, and Tina M.
Amazing.
Hi, guys.
Hey, guys.
Okay, so we're going to look at the first article, What is Arousal in Dogs and Why Should I Care by Victoria Stillwell.
And I'm going to share that with you guys now.
So a naughty but nice dog is exactly how it sounds. They are nice, beautiful, lovable dogs underneath, but sometimes they make bad choices. These bad choices might be because they are easily overexcited, over-aroused, reactive, frustrated, worried, scared, or anxious. They might make these bad choices because they find it impossible to be calm. They need to be calmer or maybe have a high desire to chase. They may need to be calmer or maybe have a high desire to chase, hunt, sniff, or hurt. Naughty but nice dogs are often termed aggressive, angry, overconfident, evil. But if you know your dog isn't any of those things, you know your dog isn't really any of those things. They just need to be taught to make better choices and to be happier about the things in their life. In fact, many of the things that the NBN dogs do are often motivated by high arousal. You may feel alone, but you aren't. So this article is generally geared towards dogs at home because dogs at home can have the same concern. But the concept applies to all animals in general. What is arousal? Well, basically, arousal is how responsive your dog is to events occurring from you and the environment. Arousal involves a very complex interaction between the brain, specifically an area called the reticular activating system, and other areas, for example, those involved in hormone production. This affects how likely your dog is to respond to you and its environment. But in addition to this, arousal affects how positive and negative events are processed and the resulting emotion. Therefore, the same event, for example, a dog barking, may result in completely different emotional and behavioral responses depending on his arousal level. So this means arousal is very real and has both physiological and psychological effects. The key to understanding companion and performance dog training and behavior is that arousal is cumulative and doesn't go away quickly. The best analogy to look at this is that of an arousal bucket. So small positive or negative triggers of arousal, for example, an agility run or seeing a dog they're worried by, acts as additions to the bucket. Pouring a glass of water acts as addition to the bucket, pouring a glass of water inside. As water is added to the bucket, dogs get closer to the threshold. Beyond this threshold, we may see over-arousal or fear responses to relatively mild triggers of fear and anxiety. Further to this, it can take a long time for a bucket to empty. There is only a very small hole in the bottom, which means it takes a very long time to empty. During a study I did looking at pet population dogs, many owners noted their dogs showing a behavioral response to exposure to fireworks or thunder over 72 hours after initial exposure. So after they went through a night of fireworks, they were over-aroused for 3 days later. And awareness of this concept is crucial in both companion and performance dog training, as well as working with naughty but nice dogs. 1, arousal. You may think of it as positive and negative stress. It's cumulative. Both positive and negative events can add to the bucket. There is a threshold at which we start to see problems. It can take over 72 hours for arousal levels to return to basal level. Working with arousal. The secret to working with arousal is using a program that focuses on simple, quick games you can play, it says in your living room or that prepare your dog for life and enhance elements of their personality, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to stop reading there because what we do is what we can do is practice on self-control, similar to what you were already practicing on with several of the dogs. So I wanted to let you know that it's like, it's a thing. So when we talk about over-arousal and stress and it being cumulative, it's this. And it takes a really long time to go away. So like we all know, or maybe we don't, when dogs go home and they're really stressed, adopters may see that stress behavior for like 3 weeks or more. Or the dogs may just be like, okay, I'm cool, and their response is very quick. So that was all about the bucket.
I was going to say, even in this was a learning experience for me, even like Potato, my best friend adopted Potato, who was seemingly pretty chill here. And even she had some, it took, she's still coming down, and she didn't have any over arousal issues that we saw. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
Because her bucket might not have been overflowing, but her bucket was full.
Yeah.
I think,
Interesting.
I think I kind of liken coming into a shelter to like going through a trauma. And the whole time they're here, it's potentially piling on trauma. So when they leave, they're going to leave at that level where they've gone through a trauma, and that arousal is going to take a minute, just like if we go through a trauma.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter how nice we make it, it's a traumatic event.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the next article we are going to look at it's dog training, and it's by a trainer who I've not seen before. I have not come across any of her articles before, but I found it just this evening, and I liked what she had to say. And then I looked up her credentials.
And they were good.
And they were good, but I didn't print her credential page. She's got all of the letters after her name, essentially. Okay, so over-arousal in dogs. I learned about over-arousal in dogs the hard way. I hadn't been working in a shelter very long when a large, strong dog came in as a stray. And it doesn't have to be large at all. When any dog came in as a stray. He was young and pretty friendly overall, but he had a tendency to escalate quickly. He was stressed in the shelter environment, and he showed that by humping the staff. Humping is often thought of as a sexual behavior, but in many cases it's a stress behavior. Who knew that? Who knew that it was stress? Okay, it's a stress-related behavior. They're frustrated. Okay, yep, here we go. So humping is often thought of as a sexual behavior, but in many cases it's a stress behavior. I didn't truly understand this at that time. I finished a short training session with this dog, working on alternate behaviors to humping people. I put him back in the kennel, turned to leave, and this frustrated, overly aroused dog sunk his teeth into my upper arm, leaving 2 punctures. I learned that day what can seem high energy, quote unquote, or untrained, quote unquote, is often really frustration and over-arousal, and being on the receiving end of it can actually be dangerous. Behavior professionals use the term over-arousal to describe a heightened state in which a dog may exhibit a range of behaviors characterized by a high energy level the dog seems unable to control. Over-arousal in dogs is an interesting topic to think about and work with because it includes behaviors that can sometimes verge into aggression. For instance, a dog who is overly aroused may jump repeatedly on someone, bark excessively, and use their mouth with moderate pressure. You may see any of these behaviors in other contexts, such as when a puppy jumps on a person to get attention. But when an adolescent or adult responds to the environment with these behaviors, there's a safety component that needs to be addressed. What does over-arousal look like? A dog who struggles with this issue may be labeled as excited or hyperactive. Usually, you'll see that it is easy for those dogs to go from 0 to 10 really quickly. Stimuli in the environment could easily cause pacing, panting, barking, jumping, humping, leash biting, or mouthing. These dogs may appear almost frantic. They can also appear to be playing, but too roughly. Over-arousal often happens during play, either when other dogs or when engaging with people. A dog may suddenly jump repeatedly for a toy and mouth your arms while doing so. What seems like friendly play between 2 dogs may suddenly get faster with more vocalizations, and harder play bites, quote unquote. If you've ever seen a doggy play session escalate into a fight, you've witnessed over-arousal. Over-arousal is the sister of aggression. It is very easy for over-arousal to tip into something more. For this reason, this is a safety concern if your pup has a tendency to be a little extra. Playful mouthing can quickly turn into hard biting if a dog has trouble regulating themselves. Many people want to absolve their dog of the aggressive quote unquote label, but over-arousal can be placed on a spectrum of aggression. These terms should be used to communicate, not become scarlet letters for dogs. What causes over-arousal? If your dog is a breed that is often referred to as quote unquote high drive, you may see higher arousal levels from them. That's because the breed is genetically inclined to do their job that requires intensity, speed, or quick responses to external stimuli. When channeled, these high drive breeds are amazing at their work, but some of these breeds may struggle in everyday situations if they haven't been taught coping skills to control the drive, or outlets for their drive are inappropriate. Any dog can show overly aroused behaviors, and breed is only one piece of the equation. Exposure to too much stimulation, for instance, can also cause overarousal. Behavior professionals see this often in dogs who play repetitive high-energy games like fetch, or are exposed to very busy households with no downtime. The best way to relax is to practice relaxation. And we often have to carve out time for our dogs to do this. If we don't, the overstimulation may lead to arousal. Adolescent dogs tend towards overarousal naturally. Keep in mind, just like human teenagers, dog teenagers between the ages of 6 months and 3 years need a lot of help regulating their behavior. Their brains are not fully developed yet, and if they don't have self-control, and they don't have this self-control of adults. When I see a 10-month-old dog jumping and mouthing their owner to get a toy, surprised, teenagers. So what do we do about overarousal? Here's some key areas for you to look at if you notice this tendency in your pup. So she goes on to talk about exercise. She goes on to talk about good quality sleep time, activities, self-protection, and always checking with your vet.
But can't exercise
I was just about to say.
can actually have the like that's in
So if
100%.
you actually look at like at that paragraph, she talks about that, about how like
it has to be
that appropriate.
Yes. So she says, so let's start with the elephant in the room. This is often a go-to for dog guardians struggling with an over-aroused pup. And this makes total sense. If it seems like a dog has too much energy, the natural solution is exercise, right? Well, no. Dogs need exercise that is appropriate for their age, breed, and energy level. And without it, they will develop behavior problems. But lots of high-intensity exercise will help your dog get stronger and then need more exercise overall. This is not a good way to practice calm. So think of long games of fetch or running beside a bike. These are high-intensity ways to make a higher-intensity dog higher. This doesn't mean these activities are taboo. It just means they need to be coupled with other forms of activity to help your dog practice being self-regulated. One suggestion is a long walk in nature. You can also bring your dog down from a high-energy game like fetch by having them do some scent work in the form of treats scattered on the ground. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not really super interested right now in having any type of volunteer group come in and run with the dogs. It's the last thing we need right now until we kind of get a better grip on everything that we're doing. Because it will lead to over-arousal in those who are already over-aroused,
Like
that don't
run,
have
run?
an ability to self-regulate.
Yeah, we often have people that want to do like running club. or things like that.
gotcha.
Yeah, I think there was a person that just came in today asking about, I have a running club or whatever. The intention is well placed, and it's it's very valued, but it's not what we need right now. Maybe in the long run, and maybe we can identify certain dogs that can participate. But right now, no. Okay, so key things in this article. It's over-arousal is not a label. Over-arousal is a term to communicate with. Over-arousal is on the spectrum of aggression. Okay? And then in this massive PowerPoint that I found from another person who has all of the credentials, she talks about a lot of really good things. And the only thing that I want to point out that she discusses in her over-arousal section, she's got some great articles. So if it's shared and you can go to the YouTube videos, you can go through the PowerPoint and watch all of her good training examples and training videos. Okay. So she says, why prevent Why prevent overarousal and leash reactivity in shelter dogs? Adopters struggle to form bonds with overaroused and leash reactive dogs and may view them as aggressive. Dogs that exhibit these behaviors tend to be difficult to walk and interact with. Nobody wants to interact with those dogs. Overarousal and leash reactivity can lead to aggression. Here, another person is saying the same thing towards people and or dogs. So, what do we need to do? We need to break the cycle of dog isn't attractive to adopters, which leads to dog remains in the kennel, which leads to dog's behavior deteriorates, which leads to dog isn't attractive to adopters. Dogs experiencing overarousal have higher cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone. So we are battling physiological and psychological things going on here. Ideally, we work really hard to prevent it, and then we can add in meds and we continue to work before it becomes a scary type of reality where we have no hopes of bringing all of that back down. But we can still try to bring it all back down, and we're going to talk about some of that tonight for Persephone specifically. But anyway, thoughts? Anything that comes to mind after reading all that information?
For me, I think of Bo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's another one we were going to talk about, but just
Yeah, I really feel like, and I was going to bring this up, he was actually very calm, not spinning in his kennel. He was pretty chill when he was in the quarantine area. I think because it's quieter and nobody was I think seeing other dogs in that yard gets him even more wound up. So I was going to see if we could move him to maybe a quieter section. I think that is good for him.
You talked to me about that yesterday. I was going to see maybe if we could get the team to maybe move him back into quarantine where it's quiet.
Yeah.
Space.
Like I was a little nervous getting him out after that long, and he was so good.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow, he was good. And I think it's because he was chill, But then also, I think what would help us with a lot of our dogs, and I know we've talked about this, and it's kind of a matter of space and stuff, having a room, where it's dedicated, where we can take those dogs to
You could use the community room right now. Isn't it empty?
Not on surgery, pre-surgery nights, but the rest of the time it's been empty.
Yeah, check out the community room too for now.
Okay.
The quiet space.
Yeah, because Bo, it's so limited. We can only do it on Monday and Wednesdays, and he needs it more than that. But that was really helping.
Yeah.
And then I think we kind of got away from that, and then it started kind of escalating again. But we need to get back to having a space to do that. Yeah.
He was telling me how he's a totally different dog outside the shelter.
I checked him. I took him one day. He is.
But what do you do? Unless you get him into a foster or.
Well, yeah, and people aren't really seeing that
Somebody
side of
took
him.
Trophy today.
I heard.
So
That's why Isabel's blowing up my phone. She probably wants to tell me about it. But anyway, I think having that dedicated quiet space would be a good thing.
I think, yes, finding other places, but I also would really encourage, when it is available, using the meet and greet room, because it would begin to associate that room with calm behaviors, which means that when they do need an adopter in there, this isn't a party room.
Yeah.
Right.
This is where I come and be chill and I just get
Because
petted
going
and I-
outside is the party time.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think the only people who get him out are, Tiffany, she's not here, and I don't think she's on there. But Rick and Nigel, we're consistent. So when we take him in that room, we remove all the toys, and he has some little scent work things.
We
But
can
that
have
was quiet.
some other spaces that might be available, like the garage or something. If you close the doors, I don't know.
Well, I even
but we
thought,
there's
like-
not other spaces really.
Sectioning off, finding an area of a yard,
Mm-hmm.
bring all those dogs in and lock them up, and take everything out of that yard.
Sure, if you gave them extra enrichment, like a really interactive form of enrichment, like Kongs or something like that, keep them busy for that period of time. That works too. Yeah, you
Just somewhere
do it.
quiet.
Yeah, you can do that. What else came to mind? It's okay if nothing came to mind.
Seems like you were about to say something.
Um,
Okay. Did it?
well,
I know
with Persephone, I mean, it definitely on the way back, that's when her behavior escalated. And,
Did you, hearing and reading some of the stuff, did any of it kind of like
oh yeah,
click
yeah,
for what you saw? Okay.
yeah. But
You
I
kind of
mean,
lined up.
it was a, I mean, for me to use the radio, she was pretty bad. So it was
It's not just you using the radio. A catch pole was needed for her to safely get her back into the kennel
Yeah.
because nobody could get close to her neck to get another leash around. I tried. We're ordering more catch poles. We're ordering slip leads, and every single one of you is going to know how to use a catch pole. They're very easy to use, and they're an important safety tool.
I
They're
don't
not
know
scary.
if I should have had like pet corrector or something. With
No,
me.
it could have gone down the wrong way. I think you
Okay.
did exactly what you needed to do. We will start the team. We've already kind of covered some like safety in regards to handling, but we still need to do that with you guys too, and that's going to come with like catch pole practice and stuff like that. I may even be as serious as like if you don't attend this class, then you are not going to be walking dogs until you attend this class type of situation because I take the
I think
safety
that's a good
very
idea.
seriously.
I really think that's a good idea.
And so yes, I mean, though you don't see it other times with that one dog, what happened is it happened. And it's a very serious thing, and I'm just glad nobody was further injured. Like, yeah, I've seen it worse. I've seen it a lot worse.
And
I mean, she could have done a lot of damage to me, but she didn't. So I know it wasn't like a Maloof type situation.
Right.
But she wouldn't leave me alone.
Yeah.
I couldn't get her to stop.
It could have
eating
quickly
the treats.
escalated
I
to
had
that.
Hot dogs,
It could have quickly escalated to that.
And you had the same type of issue with her.
Not
Not as bad, but
Yeah, that's dangerous and that's scary.
scary dog.
And
but not
nobody
exactly
should be
today.
interacting with that until there's a solid plan in place for behavior modification in addition to safety parameters. And we're going to discuss like some of the we'll discuss that. In fact, I guess you wanted to talk about Bruce Wayne first. But there's going to be safety parameters. And honestly, I'm not
Away from volunteering.
Oh, yeah.
no.
welcome in.
But she's a red collar, and I also wanted to ask if you guys understood why she immediately needed to be placed on off hold. Like nobody's interacting with her for a minute. Every time we seem to do that, there seems to be a lot of people. Yeah, there seems to be a lot of people that don't understand. They don't understand. They think it's humane, not taking her out, not touching her. Honestly, she needs a minute. We need a minute.
Can we treat her in the kennel? Or
Absolutely, we can
Okay.
do
Yeah.
everything that we
I've
were
been
doing
going
with
back
Bruce
there
Wayne.
every
Yeah,
day.
I went back to that.
But yeah, she needs a minute and the other dogs need a minute. And that is a huge safety concern. And I wanted you guys to really understand why we took it so seriously and why we immediately made her off limits. That is not anything that I want anybody to experience. And I don't even like that you already experienced what you did. So I just wanted to, let everybody know, like when we do that, we have a serious situation that we need to consider and we're doing it out of the safety of everybody involved. And so I don't want to be questioned in regards to welfare. I am thinking about everybody's safety and I don't want her to escalate to the point of fighting. And I definitely don't want any humans being injured. And so that's kind of why we did everybody's red, no touching for a minute. No touching for a minute. So anyway, we'll talk about Bruce Wayne.
Can I make a comment about Persephone first, please?
Sure.
Doris, I identified with I appreciate your desire to keep us safe. I identified with a lot of what was in that article. I've seen that I walk her and I both play with her in the yard, and I've seen that in the yard. She'll jump up and she's a bit mouthy. She doesn't bite down, but she's mouthy. I play fetch with her, but then after a time, I can sit with her and rub her belly. She'll actually settle, and she likes to be petted. She'll turn over. She likes to have her belly rubbed. So she will settle after a time.
Yes, and so what I'm saying is the two can exist, and they can exist at the same time within the same dog. And so the point is that the other side also exists. And so how do we tackle that safely, making sure she doesn't become a bite case and making sure that we don't have any further injuries.
Yes. And the one concern with her is that she's so potty trained. Does that cause her additional stress?
That adds to her bucket.
I'm sorry?
That can absolutely add to her bucket
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. for sure.
You know, I think it's too important to get when they get moved to red. Like that used to mean that there's a plan, and if you're working with that dog, you stick to the plan. If you don't want to stick to the plan, you don't work with the dog.
Mhm.
Plain and simple.
Mhm.
Personally, I feel like it's extremely important that we get back to that.
I don't disagree. I asked what we were doing, and there wasn't really a solid.
Oh, yeah.
There wasn't an efficient process in place.
Yeah.
So we are going to create an efficient process, and we started that with Bruce Wayne. And so we've got Bruce Wayne and everything we want to be happening with those who want to interact with him in play. And we're going to do the same with Persephone. And so if you want to interact with this dog, this is what you do. And then if you want to interact with this dog, this is what you do. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I wanted to touch on Bruce Wayne before we come back to Persephone.
Mm-hmm.
So Doris, I understand you want to talk about it. We're going to move on from Persephone for a minute, but we're going to come back to her. So I did want to check in on Bruce Wayne. It's been, over a week since you sent out his update, maybe. And I just wanted to see, has anybody in this room been able to start working on those through the kennel thing?
Mm-hmm.
How are we doing?
He's nailed for him.
I've been working with him on that.
When
And
I'm saying, Todd.
oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
When he sees you coming, he
Uh-huh.
does it. You know. So he does 4 on the floor. He's taking treats calmly. He sits on command.
Okay.
He seems a lot calmer. Todd had mentioned earlier, and I do agree. He does get a little hyped up when you try to go to leave.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Hey, you come back. You know, we're not done here." But when you're there with him, he seems fine to me. But Todd's been doing it, I think, daily as well. Go ahead, Todd.
yeah, I've been working with him every day. He's pretty calm in his kennel. And, you know, when we were still getting him out, I could get him to calm down before I went in his kennel. But as soon as you get in his kennel is when he really started to get mouthy, and then he grabbed his leash.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that he doesn't need to stay in his kennel for a while, but
So
You know,
that's why.
I guess my question is, how do you know when they're ready to come out?
So that's why the steps are important, Todd. Have you been kind of going through the steps in that
Yes.
practice? So that's
Yes.
step 1. When they are completely done with step 1, then we'll move to step 2, which gives him additional. Which I don't think step 2 is included in what you sent out yet, but we have step 2 created already.
I thought step 2 was working on touch. It's
Yeah.
posted.
Oh wait, if it's already
At
posted.
least in the
So
He was great at that.
let's.
I mean, I did it with him today.
Yeah.
Okay, so adding each time as we go. We're not going to go from, hey, he can do 4 on the floor and he can target outside the kennel, to we're opening the door, going inside his kennel, and leashing him and going for a walk. That is skipping a million steps in between. We want to shape each little step of that behavior slowly. So it looked like, hey, we can be calm outside. Then it looks like, hey, we can do a touch or a target. The reason we asked about using the target pole was or the target stick is so that we could potentially use it to target him to the back of the kennel. So what's going to be next with that is going to be things like, can I touch the latch and him continue to stay calm? Can I touch the latch and him target me over here? Can I touch the latch and target him to the back of the kennel while I'm touching the latch? Then can I open the latch? Can I crack the door? And each of these are going to be small approximations. We are not going to be going from, yep, he did, so I'm going to go in and leash him. Because that's what's going to send him into that over-arousal state, because it's going to be too much too fast. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
So
just
plan for each of those steps. And when we're totally good with step 1, and you guys can show us that, we're going to move on to step 2. But we want to, the reason we're kind of guarding each of those steps is because we don't want to move too fast and set the dog up for failure. And the person up, 'cause I don't want anybody to get hurt.
When are they supposed to come grab us?
Anytime, or they can film it if we're not available, and we can review the film.
So they can film it or grab us, and then they move to what?
The next step.
Okay.
Mhm.
But step 2 is already posted.
So I think what they're looking at is so there's the skills of practice this is level 1. included the calm, greeting, informed, for, and targeting. But level 2 is actually when they add in the additional stuff.
Got
So
it.
that's what is
Okay.
posted as a level 2.
Okay.
So y'all are still looking at level 1. It's just the
Oh,
next
gotcha.
part of level 1.
Step 2 is what is the targeting?
Step
No.
2 isn't on there yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So once we're totally comfortable, y'all feel like if you, and it doesn't have to be everybody. Like,
I'm
you
gonna
know,
open the door to help with the sewer smell.
yeah. Thank you. It's really gross.
I don't know why it's in here today. It's normally just in Eli and Amber's office.
If you throw the rug over the thing, it helps. Anyway, so it could be like this. So it could be like, Todd, you are totally good. You got it where she's nailing everything on level 1, and then maybe Jen, you're still working on level 1. Todd might move on to level 2, and Jen, you might be staying at level 1 and continuing to practice that. And when you've nailed it, you move on as well, and that's okay. It's okay for us to be at different levels than where we are with it. But we want each person to progress to that.
So does everyone have to progress before we can move on? Everybody who wants to work with.
So that person can move on. So one person could be on step 1.
Mhm.
One person could be on step 3, as long as they have shown that they can get there with the dog.
Are you going to send out all the steps? Since we only have step 1 right now, are you going to send the other steps to
No.
us?
No, not until we've seen that the first
Oh, okay. Okay.
document is good and solid.
So if you have completed everything and you either come get us and show us and we agree that you completed it, or you video it and send it to us and we agree that you completed it, then you'll move on to level 2. But we're not going to be publishing level 2 until each person shows us that. They get the level 2 when they've shown us that.
Okay.
Okay, so Bruce Wayne, we're doing well.
We've got several people that sound like they're working with him.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
amazing.
Yay. Okay, next.
So I guess I want to talk about Bruce Wayne first to make sure we were doing okay with that one, because it could be an option for Persephone too. Even and ideally these outside of the kennel behaviors are things that we talked about during another meeting. I think it was a caller meeting. We talked about maybe using some of these outside of the kennel behaviors for lots of dogs, and it doesn't just have to be, a red dog. It could be you're a green volunteer and you want to help with this purple or orange dog. You could still practice some of these behaviors outside. So even if we have a small team that starts handling Persephone, that doesn't mean that everybody couldn't be practicing this other stuff with her. So you could start basically the exact same plan with Bruce Wayne on Persephone, even if you're not on the handling team with her.
Mm-hmm.
So does that sound like something that might be feasible for you guys with Persephone?
Yeah, I did it today with her, the touch. She was
Amazing.
really calm.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yay.
was shocking.
She's been good this week.
Yeah.
And I've been back there when I have.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, she's both.
arousal was-
Everything exists together.
Yeah,
it's so
but
ramped
calm.
up.
I mean, she's been calm.
And the reason I printed these documents that, like Stephanie said, she's seen them a million times. I don't care. I'm gonna keep printing them. They are. It's because they show like the aggression, the ladder of aggression is that one that goes from yawning to biting. If you're looking at them, and we just like to remind you again that they can skip steps between these. It could go from just a mild head turn away to snapping
Mm-hmm.
in a quarter of a second. They can travel up these ladders super, super fast, but you should be watching each of these as you go, because if you're seeing any of this, it does kind of signify the level that they're at in that moment and how cautious you should be. But if you're seeing even the very base one, you should be paying attention that we're on that ladder. And then I also wanted to point out the FAS spectrum as well, because it's telling you kind of where that dog's existing and his fear, anxiety, and stress levels. And like we were saying with the over-arousal, this kind of ties in. They don't instantly leave one of these categories. So if they were in their kennel showing a red or yellow, and you brought them out of their kennel and you're going for a walk and they appear relaxed and calm, that's in that moment. But that high stress level, that high cortisol levels that they hit by sitting in that yellow or red are still in their body. So that is why it's important to me that you guys understand the stress levels, and that way you know if you're recognizing them, even not in the moment you handled him. If you recognize it yesterday, if you recognize it earlier today, before he got out, he was pacing, spinning, jumping off the walls. That's a concern for when you let him out, and you should be using caution. So that's all I want to say about those two.
Okay, so with Persephone, we're doing in-cage stuff.
I think we need to do in cage for anybody that wants to, and then
and as soon as everybody progresses through that, so the faster you move along, the faster we can pass out the next steps, basically.
And then did we want to look at any potty walks with her? Do you talk about that being a potential possibility with 2 handlers? Or do we want to restrict it for right now?
So I can go either way.
Mhm.
If we do take her out, the requirement that I would ask for safety is that 2 should be double leashed. So 2 people have her on a leash, 2 people walk her out to go potty. You can take her to a yard, but I still want 2 people there. And we have to have a slip leader catch pole so you can get it around her neck without going near her neck. And if anybody is doing this without the second person and the safety tools, you're going to be suspended for a week. Like, I'm serious. I am very serious about safety. I don't want to see any more. I've seen enough in my life. It's not safe.
Are
So
any of the techs taking Persephone out? Or
No.
is it just
So we have
volunteers?
had two staff members, at least 2, that are willing to do this.
yes,
And so I think if we do,
but not yet.
they haven't.
Yeah.
They're not giving her permission yet because we want to give her cool off time. But if we say some people are going to be doing at the very least potty walks, like Dora said, she may be stressed if she prefers to hold it. I think that anyone that would like to do that needs to be approved, and to be approved, it would be some training on some defensive handling, like using the couch bowl and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
So-
willing to do that.
And anybody else can do the outside of the kennel stuff.
And
I'm
then
gonna work with her outside the kennel right now.
I respect that.
yeah,
I respect
I don't want to touch her myself right now.
So with 2 people, I mean, we did that with Happy. I mean, it was fine with 2 people.
Yeah. So, I mean, all of the serious bites I've ever received have been by dogs with that over-aroused behavior. Like prying them, trying to get them off of me into like, I have been through some horrible experiences. My team previously has been through some horrible experiences, and I don't want anybody to go through that. So yes, we can do that. It's going to take us a minute to get together, like a plan and walk through that to make sure we've kind of got everything out. We have the advisory committee tomorrow and a luncheon, so that's going to take up the entire day. But then we can start looking at it like Thursday and Friday, and maybe get something early like Monday. But yeah, it's probably going to be a double leash. We have to get some tethers. I can probably get some tethers on Amazon like tomorrow, so we can get that going. And then I'll show you guys how to use the catch bowls and stuff like that. I'm thinking like out loud right now, she'd probably have to be set up for success where like all the dogs are locked inside, like you said, and she comes out and goes right back in, like type of thing. And then she goes back in, and then maybe that's when you train with her. So going back in is a fun thing, and she gets even more interaction then. So you make going back in even more rewarding. And lots of enrichment and stuff like that when you leave type of situation. So yeah, we could do the potty walks and then the in cage stuff.
But to be clear, for right now,
Don't touch
Yeah.
her.
Right, yeah.
in cage,
In cage only.
Do the Bruce Wayne plan for her right now, and we will work
Until you
on.
get approved.
Yes, and we
Yeah.
will work on a plan for a limited number of people to take her out for potty walks, see how that goes, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, if anybody is found handling her outside of her kennel, I please be prepared for a 1 week suspension. I don't want any misunderstanding. This is for everybody's safety, including hers and her own. So we'll come up with a potty walk plan, and then for now, everybody can start Bruce Wayne's thing.
We also had Bo on our list as far as just giving an update on.
Yeah, did you get a chance to watch the video that was sent?
They did not work at first. I'm gonna try them again.
If anybody can get any video of any behaviors that you see that are concerning, like the spinning or the head tilt and the walking and the head tilt, we're really trying to collect information to take to a vet, like maybe a specialist, so he can provide us more information on what we can do or what he sees, or maybe it's neurological. I have no idea.
I haven't seen the head tilt since he's been out, Bo,
Oh, okay.
but the
Yeah.
circles are
They
in the yard he's always in
They
circles.
If you
said
can get
that
some short
after-
video of that, that would be helpful.
Probably have some.
they tried to get some video after he came out of quarantine, and he was like you said, his arousal level was down. We weren't seeing it quite as bad, but we've had a few things reported. The head tilt is one thing we've had reported. The circling, and sometimes the circling being uninterruptible. and
That's how
possibly
Steve-O was too.
some concerns with his pupils. I don't remember if they were dilating. I also heard some shaky behavior of his head. Any of that we can get video of, that'd be really helpful because we're like she said, we're gonna try to get like a neuro eval to figure out if there's something more going on with him, that we're considering what's happening with his welfare.
Walking in circles.
I have
Okay.
tons of video of him in the yard.
Yeah. And even if it's
Shrink
older,
it
you know,
so it
before,
can be sent. I can't ever send long videos.
like if he's not doing it now, but it was something he was doing a couple of weeks ago, that's still valid. I think.
Oh yeah, it adds to his story.
Mhm.
And speaking of adding to a story, Persephone doesn't have a story at all. There's no notes. There's nothing. So Lynette had already started, and then we just kind of finished up. We have kind of like an outline for some notes, and right now it's just gonna be hard copy. We're gonna have hard copies available for you guys, and you guys can just fill them out and check the boxes type of thing and like turn it in. And all we're gonna do is probably keep a file of each dog's like notes. So we'll have like however 40 some files with each dog. Sounds extremely inefficient because it is. That is until we figure out how to get you guys some access to Shelter Love, and then you can go right into Shelter Love. We're still working on that. So I know I was talking about it a couple months ago, and then Shelter Love did this huge transition, and everything changed just last week. So now we're looking at it again. We're going to have to email for help. Ideally, long term, we get you guys access to Shelter Love, and you're just checking the boxes as well. So all that information is together.
And you can see. what
And you
everybody
can
else
see
is doing.
everybody else's, and then we start to formulate an entire story. This is all the stuff. This is good. This is bad. This is in the kennel. This is out of the kennel. This is all the stuff. Yeah,
So like we have the play group book,
yeah.
and I use it as a reference all the time.
Mhm.
What if it was something like that, where we just had tabs and each dog's name and
Sure, we could do that too.
Like a big binder.
a big binder? Yeah, I mean, I have used that
Yeah,
many times.
yeah. I might
So
be.
like for dogs.
Where do you
Is
guys
that
keep
what you're
it?
kind of talking about? We keep it in the
Similar, same idea.
workroom. Workroom, yeah.
Okay.
We kind of need to start a new one because we're just using the loose leads.
Oh,
The binder itself.
Okay.
Binder.
We can
has
start
a
with
life.
outside ones.
I know asking you guys to fill out a sheet on every single dog that you walk every single day is probably asking a lot, so I won't ask that. I will ask that maybe, let's say if you walk 10, how many dogs do you typically walk when you're here?
7 to 8, 2 to 3 hour shift.
1 to
Probably
3.
like
I can pull up that.
So let half the dogs. Do you typically walk the same ones when you come, or do you alternate?
Alternate.
I try to do
Alternate.
I try to stick to the oranges because
Okay.
not a lot
Okay.
If it's
Get them out.
evening, I just do the kennel trim ones. That's all I have time for.
I am so like I was thinking offhand. Maybe like let's say you typically stick with the same dog. So let's say Stephanie, for example, you work orange primarily when you come visit. Maybe you just kind of fill out charts on half of those dogs, and then the next time you come in, you fill out information on the other half of those dogs. However, and whatever information you guys can start submitting would be super helpful as
For
opposed to
every dog?
nothing. However many you can do. So like if you typically walk the same ones, submit half maybe, and then the next time you come, submit the other half.
And to be clear, this isn't like we want you writing a book on every dog every time.
It's just check boxes.
it's literally I prepared like some objective notes
Okay,
on
so
what
you're
you're
going to give
seeing,
us a template to follow.
Yes.
and you're just gonna check it off. Like
Yes.
and it's not gonna be on the entire experience. There's a few different ones I've created. So there's like kennel present or kennel presentation. So
You guys can come in.
what was the pet doing or what was the dog doing when you walked up? Like if you can sometimes we can see them before they see us type of thing. What were they doing when we approached? Then if you approach and the dog's familiar to you, how did he respond? If he's not if you're not familiar to him, how did he respond? How did he take treats? Things like that. And then in general, what does this kennel look like? Is it neat and tidy? Does it look like a tornado went through the kennel, which maybe indicates that he's stressed out, right? He's maybe doing flips off a wall.
Like Mr. Rogers today.
Yeah, so like because those are important. So it's going to be very objective like that. What did you see? And it's just going to be a check. Now, if there's something that you're like, whoa, this crazy thing happened, please do make a note. But it's going to be something that I'm hoping will be quick. Same with leash behavior. It's like he was walking by my side and loose and wiggly, or he was pulling crazy ahead of me. Just check, check, check. It should be hopefully something fast, because the goal would be, if you guys can do it in the future in Shelter Love, you can do it on your phone. Check, 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 check.
It's also not something we're super in love with, and it's very fluid form. So if you have any feedback, please provide feedback. But the goal is to keep it very fast and simple for you guys, but collect information. I was talking to Captain Ladd about all 3 of these dogs, and he was also surprised that we were not already in the habit of collecting information. And we're not, so we're going to start with we'll figure out access, because it's helpful to look at their whole history. Of everything. It's just like their medical history. We need to do the same for behavior. It's just as important.
Can I bring up one other thing? And I know like I'm gonna tick off about 80% of the people on this call and in this room, and I'm sorry, but kind of not. Because I think it's important. Like, you know, when we have a ton of dogs, putting the dogs in the yard, you know, to get them all out, I understand, but we have a manageable amount now. I just feel like, especially with dogs like Persephone, already have over arousal issues. Throwing them in the yard alone just seems like makes it worse. Mm-hmm. Because when you go to get them, they've done
nothing but further over arouse themselves. Yeah. I agree 100%. We're not doing them a service.
And I've been saying this for a long time. So I don't know how anybody else in the room feels, but I'm on the same page with you.
I am on the same page as well. I think we need to be more cognizant
all of that.
Of what we're doing. Like, our intentions are all in the right place. Our intentions are all in the right place.
Absolutely.
But I think as we start having these discussions about these dogs, we can realize how we can tweak things and make it even better for these guys. We're also starting Persephone on meds too. So we were supposed to start last Friday, but I got some more information from another vet somewhere else. Anyway, so we're starting her on medication too, to help kind of bring her stress levels down as well. So if you see anything like major, like, we've got some meds involved too.
I think with the yard thing, there's some dogs that love going in the yard and playing and having and it's almost a calming experience.
It's not a one size fits all, but
there are some that get over-aroused in the yard.
Yeah.
And I think we know those dogs, they need to be walked.
Yeah.
And a lot of them do better when they're taken away from the shelter.
And I think it also might be a time frame thing. Like, maybe they do need to go out and they do need to roll around, but then you need to pay attention and realize when they're done rolling around, and then maybe you practice like some really structured, quick training things for self-control or something like that, and then they go back in. So it's kind of it is not a one size fits all. It's a very individual based on that dog's body language and kind of like what you know that he needs, and being able to provide that. And this,
has anybody had any issues with Lima bean?
Just from yesterday. I mean, she is I walked her. She's absolutely, a jumper and everything. Okay. So it was.
Because I took her for a walk with the new trainee, the purple trainee, and then we went to the yard, and I said, sometimes you can just let them have some running time, and she was getting mouthy and.
I've been taking her out.
The one I had issue with, and Doris and Todd, I don't know if you guys have had it, but I walked Alucard, the husky, for the first time last night. I made it out to the wall and went immediately back, just because jumping, lunging, biting the leash, it was not a good experience.
Okay.
And that was and again, to your point, right? Maybe I should have posted on our dog behavior group on Slack, but having this template would be an awesome way to do that.
I think, what color was that dog?
It's purple.
I think it sounds like an orange to me.
Well, and again, so from a volunteer perspective, one experience, which is mine, what is other people's
One experience
feedback?
is valid.
It is valid.
One experience is enough for me to mark that dog a level up, and so that we can focus more and provide what we need for that dog. Because if that is what if that's what's happening right now with even one person, something's going on, and we need to make sure that we nip it in the bud and help him with whatever we need to help him with. I would consider him an orange. Absolutely. That's something scary. That's going to lead into exactly what Persephone did, without a doubt.
What was the reason he was returned? Do we know?
That's what I was wondering.
He was returned because of he wasn't allowed at the apartment, which is pretty typical for husky types.
Yeah.
So now that's what they told us. No,
But I mean, he's also a husky, and we were also reading. He's a high drive breed,
Mhm.
so yeah, he needs some more. They all need impulse control work. Impulse control work.
And
I would go through that PowerPoint and the link, hopefully if it was shared, and look at some of these videos too. But maybe we can start sharing those too. Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you for the timer. I like that. Meeting adjourned.
before it's adjourned, I have one follow-up.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for the meeting and we enjoyed it.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Thank you, Stephanie. Before we cut out, I did just want to provide one more adoption update or return update. Some of you, if you want to say for it, if you don't, I can
just
update. Is Happy.
Yeah.
Happy, you guys may know, was returned, and he was returned cornering the people in the home, growling at the adopter, attempting to bite multiple times. Entire home felt uncomfortable around him. Adopter did not feel that he could handle him and was comfortable with him. So,
But they give him treats.
I
Because that's what he does.
I did. He was giving him treats. He was trying everything. He, really wanted to be an advocate for the dog. And he was very adamant on how he felt like he just was never really in control, which it wasn't a good relationship. He just felt as though he was kind of always overpowering him, even if he was giving him treats and stuff like that.
I think he inadvertently might have taken it on as his personal failure when it is not anything to do with
He did.
him.
I definitely
I
sensed
kept
that.
hearing the word and I saw it typed control. No, Dave, no, that dog is over-aroused.
Mhm.
He's over-aroused.
What about Milo?
to the notes.
Did you find anything on Bo?
Yeah, I have several videos, but they need to be
Shrinking.
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 Doesn't have
Shrinking.
time
Shrinking.
around work to devote for caring with Milo. No issues with Milo himself.
Oh, that's good.
And then that was the most recent one. The one in November the 19th was, no, that one. Sorry, that's not a return note. October was, he's been having to spend his time in the crate. And he didn't like, the roommate's dog didn't like him, but he liked the roommate's dog.
So either they're not being honest or legitimately they don't feel like they have the time to dedicate.
But that does make me question sometimes when someone says, I don't have time for them. Is that what's going on with their behavior? Because like I have two polar opposite dogs. One of them would be perfectly happy if I gave her, 5 minutes of my time and then she's like, can you please leave me alone? Like that's enough love. And I have another one that's very clingy, needy, or that needs a lot of training. So when someone says they don't have time, it is to me kind of a reflection too of like what
makes you think there's not enough time?
What
Makes
is
you
it-
think you don't have enough
what
time?
do you think the dog needs? Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's something I think we could do a better job of gathering information on in the future.
Yeah. Okay.
Great meeting.
So you're welcome. Thanks for attending. So we've got, I guess let me recap. I've got my notes. I'm going to be ordering slip leads. I'm also going to be ordering carabiners. Carabiners.
yes.
Carabiners.
Doris.
Oh, that was her idea?
Yeah, that's
Oh.
that's what
Just for the radios?
I wasn't thinking about
Don't act too surprised.
that. Well, because
No, because
yesterday,
you didn't tell me. I heard it from Stephanie, so I assumed it was Stephanie's idea.
What's the idea?
Well, I was just thinking if the other Stephanie would have had a way to maybe hook
100%.
Stephanie up to
Yes.
something, she could have gotten away from
Yeah,
her.
I'm going to order a couple different sizes to experiment with, and then we'll find the easiest ones that clip to a leash that can then clip to the fence because you only got a certain diameter within that fence area to make it fast and efficient. So anyway, I'm going to get slip leads. I'm going to get some carabiners, and then we're ordering more catch poles. And so anyway, when we get it together early next week, we'll just have some quick makeshift, this is what you kind of do situation. I also want to make sure everybody always has treats on them, a higher value, a lower value. That might help in the situation where they're not responding to treats. Oh my gosh, you have chicken? Okay. Then you have a brief minute to get control, quote unquote, over that dog and kind of get him back into someplace safe anywhere else. Sorry. Ultimately, also, if you need to let go. I value your safety over anything else.
even if it's a dog that's going to go after other people and dogs out walking.
If your life is threatened,
Every man for himself.
I want you to value your safety. We've all got radios now, so if anything like that happens, you can also radio too.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad Stephanie had a radio on her.
And I just wanted to point out that I really am excited about adding safety stuff like the carabiners and things like that, and the treats. In this specific situation, I believe Stephanie was giving hot dogs and things like that.
She was. She did everything she could have.
And she was walking outside the wall. So she, in this instance, she wouldn't have been able to put the dog to something. But that doesn't mean that it's not a great tool to use in case you are in a place where you could run and clip. So it's a great idea. I don't know that it would have changed this specific one, but it is a great idea for others.
Well, there's a fence out there. There's electrical posts.
Yeah, if you can get to them. I mean, I think
there's trees.
That it ties in the importance of the radios and wearing them, using them, understanding that you know how to call you understand the SOS signal, and how to announce your location so that we can get to you immediately.
I'm not even concerned about a proper call. Just I need help, and just please tell me where you're at, because the tell me where you're at is the hardest thing to get out, and it's been consistently
Thank you guys for number.
Yeah, I do like the yard.
My
number,
entire
yard.
history. We're not even going to take. None of us are going to take credit. We will say that it's a safety thing, but honestly, it started with rotating the yards because we want to preserve the grass, and so we might start having one yard out of commission, and then we were like, we got to number them, and then we were like, that's going to help with safety.
Yeah.
All of us went, oh my God, that's actually great.
Yeah.
I know, because remember when the trees and you're like, what yard? And I'm like,
I
if you go
don't
in the
know.
back, but it's the one on the left, not the right.
Anyway, we are going to do so many things. So anyway, you'll be hearing from us shortly. Cool. Thanks, guys.
Great.
Thank you, guys.
I had no idea.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.